My name is Ethan Cole, and for most of my adult life, my family had a label for me. Freeloader. That was the word my father used. Not once, not twice, but for years. At every family dinner, every argument, every gathering. It became my identity in their eyes. The son who does nothing. The son who depends on everyone. The son who will never succeed. But what they never understood was simple. I was already paying for the one thing they believed they owned alone, their house. It started quietly. I was 22 when my father's construction business collapsed. One bad contract, one failed project, one crash in income, and suddenly, the house mortgage became a threat hanging over everything. I remember the tension in that home, the late-night arguments behind closed doors, the unpaid notices hidden in drawers, the silence at the dinner table. No one said it out loud, but the house was slipping away. That's when I stepped in, not because I was asked, but because I saw what was about to happen. I had just started working full-time in IT support. Nothing big, nothing impressive, but I had enough to make a difference. So I did something I never told anyone about. I called the bank, set up automatic payments, and started covering the mortgage every single month, quietly. No credit, no announcement, no recognition, just responsibility that nobody knew belonged to me. At first, it felt temporary, just a few months until my father recovered, until things got better, until someone else took over. But temporary slowly turned into years, and nobody ever asked where the money was coming from, because they didn't need to. They believed they already knew the truth, and that truth was simple in their eyes. I was the failure. My younger brother was the future. My father was the provider. My mother was holding everything together. And me? I was just the one who did nothing. The freeloader. The disappointment. The mistake. I learned to stay quiet, because every time I tried to explain myself, it turned into a lecture. You need to grow up. You need responsibility. You should be more like your brother. So eventually, I stopped speaking and just kept paying, month after month, year after year, while they believed the house survived without me. But everything started to change the day the first official mortgage letter arrived in my name. And I realized something terrifying. If I ever stopped, the truth would come out instantly. And that's exactly what I did. I stopped. For years, nothing changed. That's the strange part about carrying a secret burden. Life keeps moving like you're not doing anything at all. Same dinner table, same conversations, same insults. And I was still the freeloader. My father never once questioned how the house was still being paid. In his mind, he had already survived the worst. He used to say things like, "We're managing it somehow. We worked hard for this house. This family knows responsibility." And every time he said it, I stayed quiet. Because in reality, I was the one managing it somehow. By the time I was 28, I was paying more than just the mortgage, the water bill, the property taxes, sometimes even repair costs when things broke down. A leaking roof? I handled it. Broken heater? I handled it. Emergency bills? I handled them too. But I never signed my name on anything in their eyes, so it didn't count. My brother Ryan got all the praise. He was focused. He was building his future. He was the hope of the family. Funny thing is, he didn't even know the house was drowning, because I made sure he never had to. And me? I was still the disappointment, still the one who doesn't contribute, still the one who will never understand real responsibility. Every time I heard it, something inside me got quieter, not weaker, just quieter. The breaking point didn't come as a fight. It came as a sentence, a simple moment at a family dinner. I remember it clearly. My uncle laughing and saying, "At least Ryan is doing something with his life, unlike some people." Everyone laughed. My father didn't stop it. He actually nodded and said, "Some people just take. That's all they know." I didn't react, not because it didn't hurt, but because something inside me finally clicked. If that was what they believed, then maybe they should live without what I was taking. That night, I went home, sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started going through every single payment, one by one: mortgage, bills, auto payments, everything I had quietly carried for years. And I stopped it, all of it. No message, no warning, no explanation, just silence. Because I wanted to see something clearly for the first time. What happens when the freeloader stops freeloading, and the house has to survive without him? And within days, I started to see the first cracks. Letters arriving, confusion building, and a truth they were not ready for was about to hit their mailbox. The first sign wasn't a phone call, it was a letter. A plain white envelope sitting in the mailbox with my father's name on it. Not mine, his. I remember staring at it for a few seconds before opening my door, because I already knew what it meant. Something had changed. The next day, another letter came, then another, and suddenly the mailbox became a countdown. Final notice, past due, urgent mortgage alert. Each one heavier than the last, each one louder than the silence I had left behind. And at home, confusion. My mother called me first. Her voice wasn't angry, it was scared. "Ethan, the bank keeps sending letters. This has to be a mistake." A mistake. That word again. They always used it when reality didn't match their beliefs. My father was worse. He refused to accept it at all. "This is a system error," he said. "Banks don't just stop things like this." Then he added, "We've handled this house for years." We. That word hit differently, because there was no we. There was only me. Meanwhile, I stayed silent. No explanation, no correction, because I wanted them to feel what I had felt for 15 years, being blamed for something they didn't understand. Days passed. The letters didn't stop. They got sharper, more serious, and finally, the word appeared that changed everything. That night, my phone rang nonstop. My mother, my father, my uncle, even my brother. But I didn't answer. Not out of anger, but because I knew the truth was finally doing what I had done for years, carrying the weight alone. Then came the message that broke the silence, from my father. Just one line. "What did you do to this house?" I stared at it for a long time, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt clear. I typed back, "I didn't do anything. I just stopped doing what you said I never did." And I hit send. Within minutes, the house I had silently saved for years started falling apart loud enough for everyone to hear. After I sent that message, the house went quiet. Not peaceful quiet, the kind of quiet that happens right before something breaks. For 2 days, nothing happened. No new letters, no calls, no shouting, just tension sitting in the air like a storm that hadn't decided when to fall. Then the truth started spreading inside the house. My mother found the mortgage statement. My brother found the overdue notices. My father finally opened the bank portal. And for the first time, they saw my name. Every payment, every month, every year, all under one line. That was the moment everything changed. Because confusion turned into panic, and panic turned into blame. My father called me again. This time, his voice wasn't confused. It was sharp. "What is this?" he said. "Why is your name on everything?" I stayed calm and replied, "Because I was the one paying for everything." Silence. Then he said something I'll never forget. "That's impossible. We handled everything." We handled everything. That sentence, that lie, that belief, it had carried their pride for 15 years, and now it was collapsing in real time. My mother tried to soften it. Maybe we misunderstood. But there was no misunderstanding, only avoidance, only convenience, only a truth they never asked to see. Then my brother spoke. His voice was different, smaller. "You're saying you paid the mortgage?" I answered simply, "Yes. And everything else, too." That's when the silence became unbearable, because now it wasn't a mistake, it was a history, a full decade and a half of hidden survival. And I finally said it clearly. "You called me a freeloader. So I stopped carrying what you said I never carried." No one replied, not immediately, because for the first time, they had nothing left to call it. And that's when the real fear began. Not of me, but of what would happen next, when the next mortgage deadline arrived, without me. After that call, everything started to collapse faster than I expected. Not instantly, but steadily, like a structure finally realizing it had been standing on borrowed strength. The first real shock came from my mother. She called me late at night. Her voice was different this time. Not confused, not angry, just tired. "Ethan," she said softly, "I don't understand how we didn't know." There was a long silence. Then she added something worse. "All this time, we thought you were struggling." I almost laughed, because that was the irony. I was struggling. I just never stopped paying. Then came my father, but not the version I was used to. No shouting, no accusations, just quiet, almost broken. He said, "If you were helping, why didn't you say anything?" I paused, and for the first time, I answered honestly. "Because every time I was around you, I was already told I didn't matter." Silence, no interruption, no defense, just truth sitting between us for the first time in 15 years. My brother was the hardest, because he didn't know what to feel: anger, guilt, shock. He finally said, "So everything we had was because of you?" And I replied, "Everything you kept, yes." That's when it fully hit them, not just the money, but the meaning, the realization that the person they called useless was the only reason their life stayed stable. The house didn't get foreclosed, not because of them, but because I agreed to help restructure it properly, through legal channels, transparent this time. No secrets, no silence, no invisibility. And here's what changed after that. My father stopped calling me a freeloader. My mother stopped defending old stories. My brother stopped speaking in assumptions, because the truth had replaced everything. But I didn't go back to how things were. I couldn't, because something inside me had already changed permanently. I still helped, but only when I chose to, not when I was expected to, not when I was ignored, not when I was used. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the invisible foundation of a house that pretended I didn't exist. I was just a person, seen, acknowledged, respected. And if there's one thing I learned from all of it, it's this: people don't realize your value while you're saving them. They only realize it when you stop.